News Talk 1070 KHMO presents On the Mark with Mark Hespin. News Talk 1070 KHMO presents On the Mark with Mark Hespin. On the Mark is powered by Cunis Country Honda Hyundai, your number one Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area at 221 North 36th Street, Quincy. Faith, family, and giving back. That's Cunis Country. And now, here's Mark Hespin.
Good morning, Tri-States, and wherever you may be listening on the News Talk 1070 KHMO app. This is On the Mark. I am Mark Hespin, brought to you by Cunis Honda Hyundai, your number one Honda and Hyundai dealer in the Tri-State area, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. You got to ask Cunis Honda Hyundai about that lifetime powertrain warranty on the new and used vehicles. This is the Super Bowl for Cunis Honda Hyundai. It is the end of the month. Friday, Saturday today. So, final day of the month, final day open of the year. If you want a great deal on a new ride, you're never going to find a better day than today. So head on over to Cunis Honda Hyundai, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. Just tell them, hey, Mark sent me. Welcome on into episode 217 of On the Mark on this December 30th, the final Saturday in 2023, the final show of 2023. What a year it has been in 2023, looking back at everything, thinking back to the playoffs last year, how exciting they were, thinking back to getting to do the Super Bowl commercial in 2023, meeting Rob Gronkowski, being a part of that. It was really cool to share that here with the On the Mark KHMO Facebook audience and the On the Mark KHMO listeners here in the Quincy Hannibal area. That was extremely exciting. Getting to be with you here all through what was a wild MLB season. The Shohei Ohtani rumors started, it feels like it started back in May of last year. The Denver Nuggets winning their first championship, and Jokic, and now what is undoubtedly one of the craziest NFL seasons over the last 20 years that I can remember, with all the quarterback injuries and Aaron Rodgers, 2 snaps into the season. It just has led to what was been a topsy-turvy season. So much so we're talking about Joe Flacco leading the Browns possibly to an AFC championship game. So the Browns, the second best team in the AFC this morning. I think you make an argument they are. So a lot of crazy things that happened in the world of sports in 2023. And next year's going to be even more exciting with the Olympics and everything going on. And what undoubtedly will be an extremely exciting NFL playoffs. And we'll start there. The biggest news to end 2023, Russell Wilson getting benched, the Denver Broncos moving on. And that's Hespin headline number one.
Hespin's headlines on the Mark.
So Russell Wilson did a press conference just the other day in which he talked about being benched from the Denver Broncos. Now, the Denver Broncos came out and immediately tried to say, well, this is performance-based. Our chances in the playoffs now are, about 1%. It's a really long shot for us to make the playoffs. And, losing that game to the Patriots really was sealed the deal on wanting to give Jared Stidham a look and spark the offense. All the coach speak, blah, 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 blah. It took less than 10 minutes for the internet and Adam Schefter and everyone to uncover that Russell Wilson has this clause in his contract. Russell Wilson's contract is insane. It's massive. Huge guarantees, massive cap hits, and it really doesn't even take effect until next year, like the big, detrimental pay of his contract, right? Well, in his contract, it starts to unfold that he's guaranteed $37 million if he can't pass a physical on the 5th day of the new league year in March, which is his 2025 salary. So basically, if Russell were to get injured badly at the end of the year, at these last 2 games, he would be guaranteed not only his 2024 salary, but his 2025 salary. Russell Wilson in a press conference said that the Denver Broncos came to me and asked me to change that clause. And if they don't change that clause, then they're going to bench me. Russell Wilson, obviously, if I was him, he did the right thing. He looked at him and said, no, call the bluff, right? Like, I'm not doing that. You agreed to this 2 years ago when you signed me to the contract, right? And now you want me to change it? That's on you. It's not on me. I'm going to keep my contract the way it is. And it's smart of Russell to do that. And Russell's been a figure over the last 2 years that has become kind of an easy punching bag. You know, Broncos country, let's ride. And his really cringy Subway commercials. Then they even got rid of his Subway sandwich. And he was really bad last year, but they kind of blamed Nathaniel Hackett and got off to a bad start this year, but really found his groove for the last 6 weeks and now struggle here down the stretch. And he's turned into a kind of a sympathetic figure. Even people who have been harsh critics of Russ have come out and be like, man, this is brutal. The Denver Broncos treat him this way. It's not really been 100% Russ's fault, in my opinion, in Denver, why the offense isn't performing, to the way Sean Payton expects it to perform. I think the offensive line is not as good as pro football thinks it is. I think the weapons are solid. They're not as good as maybe the national media wants to shout and say that they are. And I'll just say this. Sean Payton, in his career in coaching, was really great with Drew Brees. And even with Drew Brees, there's a lot of 7 and 9 years for those New Orleans football teams, if you remember. But the offense always worked. So he did have that going for him, right? But it's a little bit like the Tom Brady-Bill Belichick argument. What was better? Was it Drew? Was it Sean? Was it just the perfect marriage? And now, he's trying to find marriage number 2, and he's really struggling. I will say this in defense of the Denver Broncos. They are going to have a chance to prove it's him, not us, in these final 2 weeks. And I think that's what they're trying to do. I think that's really what Denver's trying to do. I think Sean Payton and the ownership group and the GM, they all met. And Sean Payton basically said, listen, I can prove it's him, not me, if you let me start Stidham for the final remaining games. And that will show you that I'm the right guy. My system works. We can keep building on this thing, and then we can figure out who's the next quarterback for me in this franchise going forward. Maybe it is Stidham next year if he plays well enough down the stretch just to take a hit for Russ's salary. Now, for Russell Wilson's future, it looks like it's completely done in Denver. You start asking, where is Russ going to play next year? Well, Russell Wilson's salary next year is guaranteed from Denver no matter what. He's guaranteed $39 million, whether they cut him, whether they trade him, whether they play him. That's guaranteed. That's locked on up. Now, if they trade him, they can find a trade partner who's willing to take on some of the contract. Well, then there's some relief there. But if you're an NFL team right now, the last thing you're doing is trading for Russell Wilson. Because if Denver now, they've shown their cards, they're probably going to cut him. They're just going to move on, right? They're going to chalk up this as a massive loss, and Sean Payton's going to have to do his best, his damnedest to get a lot out of a low salary quarterback, which Sean Payton believes he can do. And I think a lot of the NFL, myself included, believes he could probably do it. They can't be any worse next year. I think the quarterback play for the Denver Broncos whether it's Jared Stidham or a rookie quarterback or go get Taylor Heineke, go get Jimmy Garoppolo, go get another beat-up veteran who's just looking for another chance, a Jameis Winston, a Carson Wentz, a Baker Mayfield type, right? There's going to be quarterbacks available. There's going to be, Trey Lance. There's going to be people available that they can just plug for a year as they're just nursing the salary if they don't get aggressive in the draft this year. Obviously, the draft is an option for them. And so the problem with the trading is Denver's shown their cards, right? And if I was an NFL team, I wouldn't trade for Russell Wilson unless you were really desperate. And I don't know who's going to be that really desperate team. There are teams, we mentioned it last week, a lot of teams that need a quarterback. Denver's now added to that list. So if I look at this situation as a whole, there's a couple things I want to end this conversation on and take away from, right? Good for Russ, sticking by your contract, sticking by your guns, right? They've done you no favors in Denver since you've gotten there. Nathaniel Hackett was not the right coach, and things with Sean Payton have just not gone well, and he's taken the brunt of the blame. Whether it's true or not, we'll find out over the next 2 weeks, right? If Stidham balls out and this offense is humming and looks incredible and everything is like, well, then maybe it does look like Russ is more of the problem. So that's to be determined, right? Point number 2, Denver has their opportunity now to prove, it's you, not me, it's me, not you, right? We're going to figure out who's right, who's wrong. The third point is Denver is going to have to find an affordable option at quarterback, whether it's Jarrett Stidham, whether it's another veteran, or whether it's a rookie in 2024 when they move on from Russ. Point number 3 is Russ has some options. There's going to be a market for Russell Wilson because there's a market for quarterbacks. Look at all the teams that need quarterbacks in the league. And I would say, to me, there are a couple fits that make the most sense. Minnesota feels ready to win now with a veteran quarterback and a really good offensive coach. Maybe it's Minnesota. Pittsburgh feels ready to win with a veteran head coach with weapons right now and a good defense. Maybe he fits in Pittsburgh. Seattle, a little homecoming for Russell Wilson. Home cooking. He goes and gets humbled. Come on back. We'll give you a chance. Maybe. I don't know. There's a chance with Seattle, right? I think New England, there's an option if Bill stays. Hey, I want a veteran guy. Come on in. Don't have time to deal with a rookie. Go get a big-time weapon, early in the draft with their pick, and then you bring in a veteran quarterback in Russell Wilson. He fits the kind of Patriot way. Say the right thing. Don't give anything to the media. So I think there's some options out there, right? Overall, my final point, the fourth and final point is, if you're a team like the Chicago Bears that ends up with the number 1 pick, this is just great news. I mean, Washington giving up on Sam Howell by benching him for Brissett and the Broncos moving on from Russell Wilson just added 2 more teams to the market of teams that could possibly trade up big time, that you now hold the keys to the number 1 pick, the quarterback in the draft. So good news for teams like the Bears if they can hold on to the number 1 pick. We'll talk about that coming up next with the Jags benching Trevor Lawrence for this game to get healthy. Oh, it's going to be a nervous weekend for me and fellow Bears fans. We'll get into all that next. You're listening on the Mark News Talk 1070 KHMO, the KHMO app, brought to you by Kunis Honda Hyundai. Plenty of ways to get a hold of me. Hit me up on X, on Twitter at Mark Hespin. You can hit me up on Instagram at Mark Hespin. Follow the YouTube page at Mark Hespin on YouTube. And then if you're listening on the terrestrial radio or on the app, follow along with the Facebook page. You can join in with the Facebook Live, or as always, I post things throughout the week, including my power rankings, stories that we may talk about, fun stuff like that. Just search On the Mark KHMO on Facebook. When we come back, we will go through Week 17 in the NFL. We're live and local in America's News Talk 1070 KHMO, the KHMO app. It's On the Mark.
1070 KHMO.
Welcome on back to On the Mark on News Talk 1070 KHMO, the KHMO app, brought to you by Kunis Honda Hyundai. Over 3,000 new and used vehicles to choose from. Get to the dealership today. Final day of the year that they are open. Final day of the month. It's a Saturday. It's a weekend. You cannot ask for a better time to buy a car. You want to save the best, get the best deal on a new ride from Kunis Honda Hyundai? Today is the day. Tell them Mark sent you, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. All right, let's jump into it. A full breakdown of Week 17 in the NFL is Hespin headline number 2.
Hespin's headlines on the Mark.
By the way, I went 2-0 in my picks last week, my lock and my upset. 2-0. That means I am above 500 on the year. I have clawed. I have scrapped. I have battled. I am now 16-15-1 on the gambling picks in the year. If you remember, I started off 0-2, was 2-5-1. I plummeted to 5-10, 6-11, and have battled back since the middle of the season. I am seeing the board clearly. I feel like I know these teams now. I was 2-0 last week. I'm above 500 for the first time this season gambling. It's been a lot of losses, but if you stuck with me, we are now in the green, people. We are in the green. And I don't want to lose it now. I don't want to lose it now. And I feel good. I feel really good about my lock and my upset. And we're actually going to start this conversation really quickly with the Cleveland Browns winning over the Jets before we get into the first game of the weekend, which will be tonight, which actually is my upset. So spoiler there. Listen, Cleveland is officially in the category of like they are the last team you want to play in the NFL right now. They are playing with so much house money. They are playing with so much confidence. They have lost so many star players this year and are still so physical on defense, really, really explosive on offense. They're a fun watch. And if you are like me, and I know a lot of you are who listen to the show, if you're like me and you've hated on Cleveland was like Detroit, lovable losers. You kind of root for them because they're the lovable losers of the AFC. Detroit's the lovable losers of the NFC, right? And then that totally turned when they gave Deshaun Watson all that money and went and got Deshaun Watson. If you're like me and you've been rooting for Cleveland's demise since the Deshaun Watson deal, well, now flip it, because rooting for Cleveland to win a Super Bowl would be the most amazing thing ever. Because if Cleveland wins the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco and they owe Deshaun Watson still $200 million over the next 4 years, it's absolutely hilarious. It's hilarious. It's a disaster. What do? You can't go back to Deshaun Watson if you get to a Super Bowl, AFC Championship game, or win a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. It's insane. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's chaos, and I'm all here for it. But Cleveland's for real. I think they're the second best team in the AFC right now. I really do. All right, let's get into it. My upset of the week is tonight, Monday Night Football on Saturday. Lions +6 at the Cowboys. I love the Lions +6. I love the Lions +6. A lot of people are high on the Cowboys, and they should be, because the Cowboys are a different team at home. They're better at home. The Cowboys are desperate for a win. They are. And the Lions just won the division for the first time in 30 years, and we're popping champagne, smoking cigars, celebrating stogies. But Dan Campbell's a different beast. This Lions team is a different type of team. And I'm telling you what, I truly believe this Lions team is not going to fall into the pitfall of, oh, we won, and now we come down to earth. Because if the Lions win out, and the Eagles win out, and the Niners lose one of the last two, which is possible next week, especially when they play the Rams, the Lions get the number 1 seed in the NFC. The Lions are still very alive for the NFC number 1 seed. They will own the tiebreakers over Philly if they finish with the same record. And if they finish with the same record as the Niners, they will also own the tiebreaker over the Niners. So or a better record if they finish with a better record than the Niners, they'll own the tiebreaker of the Niners. So if the Niners lose one of the last two, which is very possible they could lose next week against the Rams, who are playing really great football, the 1 seed is very alive for Detroit. Very alive. And so I think you're going to see a very motivated Detroit team. Now, could Dallas win in Dallas? Absolutely. But if they win, it's not going to be in blowout fashion. This Lions offense is too good. The Sam Laporta, Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, this offensive line, Jared Goff playing really solid football here the last couple of weeks. I like the Lions in Dallas to not only cover the 6, but to win. The lights will be bright on Dak Prescott, Jerry Jones. A lot of emotion in the game. They're gonna enter Jimmy Johnson, the Ring of Honor. All of this plays perfectly for a Detroit Lions upset. The Lions win 30-27 in dramatic fashion. The Cowboys continue to falter. The Lions stay alive for the number 1 seed. And also the Lions know how important the number 2 seed is. Don't forget that. They'll get the tiebreaker over Philly, over Dallas, if the 2 seed is all still in play here, really much so for the Lions as well. And that's so important, because whoever's going to get the 7th seed in the NFC in the first round is going to be a Vikings, a Packers, a Seattle, a Bears, a New Orleans, a bad team. Detroit knows this. Don't sleep on Detroit like, oh, they won, now they're going to be content, blah, blah, blah. Dallas is fighting for something. No, Detroit is fighting for something. And I think they know, and I think Dan Campbell is smart enough to know to ingrain into his players. I love the Lions +6, my lock of the week. We go on to Sunday, and Patriots at the Bills. Patriots are +14. I think the play is the Patriots +14. Listen, the Bills at home, they're going to win this game. It might be ugly like the way they won against the Chargers. It's a divisional opponent, but here's why I think the Bills, the Bills are going to win because you're not going to get two great performances from Bailey Zappi. They're playing for way more than just spoiler like the Patriots are playing for. And the Bills have been playing good football. They match up well against New England. The Bills can score. New England can't score. It's as simple as that. Now, that might mean the Bills only win 23-14 and the Patriots cover. Sure, the Patriots could cover. Absolutely. If you're looking to bet this game, the line is Patriots plus 14 for sure because this is a divisional game. The Bills are going to be a little tight. They're going to try to run the football, control the game. If the Bills score over 17, 20 points, they're going to win. The Patriots can't score. So Bills will win, but the line is the Patriots plus 14. I like the Bills at home, setting up what will be, I think, an incredible Week 18 game against the Bills and the Dolphins. Bears and the Falcons. My upset of the week is Detroit plus 6. My lock of the week is Chicago -3. Here's why. In Chicago, cold weather, Falcons are indoor birds. Bears defense has been playing lights out. The only team to play Cleveland close of the last 5 games, the Bears. They should have beaten Cleveland. They had a hell of a performance. Just offensively, just Luke Getsy went brain dead in the second half. The Bears now absolutely at home play better. Justin Fields, he's from Atlanta. You know, he's got a little bit of that. Atlanta's the team that everyone thinks that could trade for Justin Fields. Justin Fields and his agent, everyone around him knows, and the team knows, him balling out is the best thing for this organization going forward. For him to stay with the organization, for him to find a new home. I think Justin Fields has these games, right? Every 3 weeks, he blows up, and he just has a monster game. I think this is it. I think this is 100-yard rushing, 200-yard passing, 2 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, a Justin Fields all-time game. They take care of Atlanta at home with a stifling defensive effort as well. The Bears will beat the Falcons. No Darnell Mooney. I actually think that's a little bit of an alleviation for the Bears offense. It's not feeling like, we got to get Darnell involved. You're going to see DJ Moore, Cole Kmet get a bunch of touches. Look for them to try to run the ball. Justin running the ball. Bears will take care of the Falcons at home. They'll cover the 3, 24-17. They're going to eat Taylor Heineke alive outdoors at Soldier Field. Bears win, improve to 7-9. Raiders at the Colts. I love the Colts in this game. I think this will be a close game. I think it'll be, 23-20. Raiders will hang in there. Raiders offensively are so bad. I mean, they won that game against the Chiefs last week, and they didn't complete a pass for like the last 3 quarters. It's historically bad. Colts are playing for a ton, and Colts are at home. Colts are 3-4 at home. It hasn't been a huge advantage for them, but a road game after an improbable giant upset victory over your rivals for the Raiders. Raiders will come back down to earth. Colts are playing again with house money. They're alive in the wild card. They see it all in front of them. I trust Gardner Minshew and the Colts offense to move the football better than Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders to move the football. Ride with the Colts. Colts will win, get to 9-7, and I think pretty much stay alive for not only the wild card but the division in the AFC South. Rams at the Giants. Bears need the Rams to lose this game for a chance to make the playoffs. It's not happening. The Bears are going to win, and the Rams are going to win, and the Rams are going to all but lock up a wild card berth for themselves, getting to 9-7. The Rams on the road against the Giants. Listen, the Giants' home field hasn't been an advantage for them. They're 3-3 at home. They're going back to Tyrod Taylor for a spark. I think it'll give them some sort of a spark. But listen, this Rams team they're the Browns of the NFC right now. They are just fantastic. The only team that has had a chance against the Ravens over the last 5 weeks, the Rams. They had them dead to rights. They had them beat except for a punt return in overtime. So I think the money's on the Rams. The play is on the Rams. The Rams favored by 5.5. I don't know if I like the Rams covering it. I think there could be a late backdoor cover from the Giants. Rams will win pretty easily. Giants may cover late. Stafford, big game. They're playing for a ton right now, the Rams. And I think they build up a ton of momentum for a really awesome Week 18 matchup between them and the Niners. I love the Rams. Rams going to win this game on the road against the Giants. Cardinals at the Eagles. Eagles will win. But you know the saying, a win's a win? Listen, this week, a win's a win for Buffalo, right? I don't care if you beat the Patriots 3-0. A win's a win. You just got to win this game. You got to stay alive, and you got to give yourself that hope, right? The Eagles, they can't just win this game. They can't just win this game. They need to win this game by like 3 scores or more, meaning like they need to win this game like 30-13 at home. We need to see them as a football world become the Eagles of old, right? They were the Eagles of old in the first half last week against the Giants, and then the Giants came flying back and made it really, really uncomfortably close. They need to go and at home against a Cardinals team that is trying to lose, that is playing for nothing, that is an indoor, warm weather team, and you need to just put the hurt on them at the bank in Philly, at Financial Field, Lincoln Financial. So the Eagles will win. It's just more or less the Eagles need to win big. I would take the Eagles and the 12 points. I think they show up. I think they win big. I think they take care of business. I think they stat pad on defense, go after Kyler Murray, and I think you'll see an Eagles offense try to take big shots, force big plays, and just get that offense moving again. Jalen Hurts, another week to heal the knee healing up a little bit and get healthy. He's been sick, dealing with that sickness. The best game of the noon slate, the second best game, of the noon slate, the best in the NFC side, Bucks versus Saints in Tampa. I love Tampa in this game. I don't know how you can't love Tampa in this game. Tampa's at home. They've been playing really, really great football. Baker Mayfield has been electric. Besides Joe Flacco coming and stealing all his headlines, he has been the surprise player of the year. Bucks at home against the Saints. Listen, the Saints, I don't trust them at all. I don't trust them at all. I don't like their coach. I don't like their offensive efficiency. I don't love the way Derek Carr has been playing. Everything points to the Bucks. Now, it is a divisional game, so it will be close. I think it will be close. I think the Bucks will make a mistake or two. The Saints will hang around, but I like the Bucks to win 24-20 at home against the Saints, and they're going to lock up the NFC South, which is actually bad news for the Bears. Because it might mean if the Bucks win, here's what happens. If the Bucks win, they lock up the NFC South and they guarantee themselves the number 4 seed in the NFC playoffs no matter what happens next week, whether they win or lose. They're the 4 seed, right? So why wouldn't you rest your starters if you're the Bucks in Week 18? Make sure you're healthy, getting yourself a mini bye, going into a home playoff game in the wild card round. Well, who do they play Week 18? They play the Panthers. So if the Panthers can find a way, we'll talk about that game next, Panthers-Jags. If the Panthers can find a way to beat C.J. Beathard in Jacksonville, no Trevor Lawrence, and then they have a Bucs team that is resting starters in Week 18, there is a real possibility the Carolina Panthers could end the season on a 2-game win streak, and the Bears will lose out in the number 1 pick. I'm prepared for that. One of the reasons why, and I've said it on this show, one of the reasons why I didn't want to talk too much about Caleb Williams and what the Bears should do at number 1, and I've always been a proponent of trading the pick, right, and building around Justin Fields, is because the Bears didn't get the number 1 pick last year until it fell into their lap in Week 18. The Bears may lose the number 1 pick again in Week 18. They might reverse Texans this thing. So I need to prepare Bears fans and everyone who's been listening to me who's been dreaming of the number 1 pick. With Trevor Lawrence not playing this week, I think that there's no reason why the Jags should be favored over the Panthers. Panthers have been playing solid football for the Panthers as of late. Still not good football, but solid for the Panthers as of late. Jacksonville has looked like one of the worst teams in the league in the last 4 weeks. I think the Panthers go into Jacksonville and win this game. And I hate to say it, but I think they do. How can you bet C.J. Beathard and the Jags right now? You can't. They're a disaster. And I know, how can you bet the Panthers? I said I'm done picking the Panthers, but my hand has been forced. That's an ugly game. That is a bad. Bears fans, you need to keep all eyes on that game and wear your Jags gear. Wear your Jags gear. Commanders at Niners. Don't waste time on it. Niners will blow out the Commanders. They were going to start Jacoby Brissett. They still may start Jacoby Brissett, but then apparently he's got a hamstring injury. Listen, the Commanders, I picked them to win 2 games this year. They ended up winning 4, but they're trying to lose out, right? They're trying to lose out, and they're definitely resetting their whole organization, which is the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Sam Howell had a stretch where it's like he could be the guy, but he had an impossible task. Sam Howell can be a quarterback in this league for a long time. He could be a great backup quarterback, spot starter guy. He seems like he could be a float around the league. You need me to start for a couple games. He feels every bit of Baker Mayfield, right? Like he has a chance that could be his ceiling. But he would have had to ball out this year to earn this job and to keep this job and for Washington to win enough games for them to not look to go a quarterback. He just fell apart late in the season. Whether it's his fault or not, I'm not sure. But he's been taking way too many sacks, turning the ball over. And when Brissett comes in and looks that much better than you, that's bad news for Sam Howell keeping this job. Commanders going to be in the quarterback market after a devastating loss in San Francisco. San Francisco is absolutely going to use this as a get-right game. I expect the Niners 35-10. I mean, this could get very, very ugly. Dolphins-Ravens, the most important game of the NFL weekend. Noon on CBS. Ravens hosting the Dolphins. The only question I have is, will the Ravens come back to earth a little bit? Right? Will they come back to earth a little bit? That's the only question I would have to worry about if I'm the Baltimore Ravens fans, because you won an insanely improbable game against the Niners in San Francisco last week with the whole world watching. Lamar Jackson now has the MVP if he wants it, right? So if you are a Baltimore Ravens fan, the only thing you have to worry about is that coming back to earth. Now, if I'm looking at this game analytically, the Dolphins are just the Niners of the AFC, only instead of physicality, they go with speed. They are built so similarly. Their offensive structure is extremely similar. So the Ravens, if they just go in with the same game plan, no Waddle in this game, I think the Ravens absolutely should do what they did to the Niners to the Dolphins. Now, the one thing the Dolphins do that the Niners don't do is they really beat you over the top with just a deep ball to Tyreek Hill, right? So the Dolphins are always a deep ball to Tyreek Hill away from just getting back in the game. I think the Dolphins' offensive line is worse than the Niners' offensive line. And so if I am the Ravens, I should be able to get at Tua the way I got at Brock Purdy. And what happened when they got at Brock Purdy? Well, they put the pressure on Brock Purdy and caused him to get off platform a little bit, be off target, and a couple of those deflection-type interception balls, and that leads to turnovers. I expect a very similar game that we saw, the Baltimore against San Francisco for Baltimore against Miami. I think Baltimore wins. I think they end up gaining, it gets closer. I think it's, listen, the Ravens are favored by 3.5. I think that's a great line, right? I would take the line, but barely. I mean, I think this is 27-24, 27-23. It's extremely close. The Dolphins keep it close because the Dolphins can make explosive plays in a way that's different than the Niners making explosive plays. I also think Brock Purdy, the lights were just too bright for Brock Purdy. The lights aren't bright for this game, right? It's the national noon CBS game, but it's not Saturday night, Monday night, Sunday night football standalone game. I think Lamar plays great. I think Lamar solidifies his MVP, a couple more touchdown passes, an electric game running. I think the Baltimore Ravens defense gang tackles like they did against San Francisco. It's a closer game, a more interesting game to the wire, but Baltimore's going to win. Dolphins fall, setting up, as I predicted earlier, a Bills win. An incredible Week 18 between the Dolphins and the Bills for the division. And as fans, that's what we want, right? That's what we want. So I'm predicting to give us what we want. That's all. I'm just justifying to get to a means. So you're following along. If you listen on the mark for long enough, you know that's what it's all about, right? We move on. The final noon game on Fox on Sunday. Titans at the Texans. I love the Texans in this game. Excited to kind of check out the highlights from this game and watch as much as I can. C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, both those guys will be their starting quarterbacks of their teams going forward into next year. C.J. Stroud maybe for the next 10 years. Will Levis getting healthy, getting a chance to play again. So that's the storyline in this. Titans play the Texans well. Texans need to win to stay alive. I like the Texans. C.J. Stroud coming back. Big performance, rights the ship. And Texans stay alive for the division. And obviously for the wild card as well. Moving on to the late slate, 3:05 start. Seahawks hosting the Steelers. Sorry, Dan. I love Seattle in this game. I do. I mean, how can you not? They're at home. Pittsburgh's got to travel. Mason Rudolph pop game. Mason Rudolph did everything he needed to do for the Steelers last week. He fed the diva wide receiver George Pickens. He just fed George Pickens, right? That's what you needed to do. He was upset. You want to get the offense working. You want to get the Steelers moving. Give it to the star, feed the star over and over again. I think that'll still work for them in this game. The back end of Seattle's defense is not as great as Pete Carroll would like it to be. It's no Legion of Boom. But Seattle can run the ball. They can control the time of clock, the time of possession. Seattle's got big play wide receivers of their own, and Seattle's playing for a ton right now. Pittsburgh's obviously playing for a lot, but Seattle's at home. I don't think Pittsburgh travels well in this game. It's lower scoring. It's ugly. There's some turnovers. Geno Smith leads a drive late. Seattle will win 23-17 over Pittsburgh in what will be an ugly game for Mason Rudolph. And I think Pittsburgh, it will set up Kenny Pickett week 18 trying to save the season for Pittsburgh. Seattle wins at home. They're 5-2 at home. It's really tough to win in Seattle. People forget. The Legion of Boom, the 12-man, it's alive and well in Seattle. Chargers, Broncos, don't watch it. It's going to be ugly. The only thing to watch in this game is Jared Stidham capable of doing what Sean Payton wanted Russ to do, right? If Jared Stidham puts up a stat line, the only thing you should watch from this game is a box score or some highlights after it's over. And did Jared Stidham go for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interception, and spread the ball around the way Sean Payton wanted him to? Because if he does that, well, then he may have earned himself the job in Denver next year as they eat the salary cap from Russell Wilson and they move forward. That's the only storyline from this game. I'll take the Broncos to win. Bengals at the Chiefs. This is a must win for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not a get right game. It is a 5-alarm fire if things don't go well for Kansas City in this game. The Kansas City had one of the worst losses I've ever seen from a contending team in NFL history. You're at home against a division rival, and the quarterback doesn't complete a pass for 3 quarters, and you lose. And you're the defending Super Bowl champs with the MVP. Like, that is a historically embarrassing loss on Christmas Day for the Kansas City Chiefs. Here's what I predict. If I'm Kansas City, I would 100% go back to Isaiah Pacheco, feed him the rock, try to just hit a big play early, like a deep ball to Rashid Rice or Valdez-Scantling. Just try to blow the top off the defense early, and then have Travis Kelce go for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like, just stop it with the wide receivers. Get Kelce open. Run it with Pacheco. They need to do it. Can they do it against this Bengals defense? They can. Jake Browning turned into a pumpkin last week. The Chiefs are like the Eagles this week. It's not just a win to win. It has to be a win and a convincing win. I think they'll be able to do it if they're smart enough. They don't overthink the room. Can Andy Reid and Matt Nagy put away the pens, go back to 1940s football, play action, get Mahomes under center for a little bit, run the football with a fullback, power football, and then hit a big play off of play action? When's the last time you saw the Chiefs do that? It's been like 2 years since we've seen the Chiefs do that. Reset. Big win for the Chiefs. They need it. And then finally, Sunday Night Football, Packers-Vikings. Listen, I mean, Vikings, I don't know. The Packers have looked so up and down, so terrible. The Vikings are on Jaron Hall, the rookie. I like Jaron Hall. I think he's going to be fun to watch in this game on Sunday Night Football. We got a Jaron Hall rookie out of BYU sighting. Vikings are at home. Listen, the Green Bay's defense has been so bad that I think even the rookie Jaron Hall will play well. I think the Vikings defense has been playing so good that I think they'll do enough to cause trouble for Jordan Love to make a mistake, which is all the Vikings offense will need against a Packers defense that with no Jair Alexander is going to just be, they're a faucet, man. I mean, they're just letting everything through. They are so leaky. I like the Vikings. I like them in a close game, fun game, Sunday night. You have it on, then you put the ball drop on. Vikings win 23-20. Jordan Love doesn't look great, and Vikings stay alive for the playoffs. You're listening on the Mark News Talk 1070 KHMO, the KHMO app. When we come back, a little college football playoff preview, and then we'll wrap up the show, final show of 2023 on News Talk 1070 KHMO, the KHMO app.
From the Salvation Army, welcome to Heartbeat.
A few years ago, I had the opportunity to host a breakout session at a Salvation Army youth camp about evangelism. After the session, a guy stayed back and poured out his heart to me. He had recently given his life to Christ, but his family didn't believe like him. He had been arguing with his sisters about how to, quote, properly be baptized and whether or not a Christian should celebrate Christmas. I could tell that all of this confusion and friction in his home was hurting him. But in the moment, I feel like God gave me the words to tell this kid to breathe and be at peace with God. Look, we don't have to have all our theology figured out the day we accept Christ. Throughout the New Testament, we see our Bible heroes walking out their theology as well. I think the Apostle Paul says it beautifully in Philippians chapter 2. So if this is you, go find the scripture and be blessed.
For more episodes of Heartbeat, visit salvationarmyradio.org.
Hi, I'm news correspondent Bob Woodruff. In 2006, a roadside bomb struck the armored vehicle I was riding in while reporting from Iraq. I sustained a life-threatening traumatic brain injury. The military term, got your six, means I have your back. And that day, our service members had mine. During my recovery, I learned firsthand the challenges facing our service members who return home with injuries. While serving, their fellow service members always had their six. Now that they're home, it is our turn. We started the Bob Woodruff Foundation to make sure that the camaraderie and support they relied on in the military carries on, and we need you. Please join us as part of the Got Your Six initiative and help us be there for impacted veteran service members and their families. They've had our backs. It's time we have theirs. Learn more at gotyoursix.org. That's gotyoursix.org, using the number 6.
At first glance, Terrence and Shania have nothing in common. Terrence is a musician. He's constantly traveling. He's 32 years old, single with no kids, and started smoking when he was 16. Shania, on the other hand, just turned 45. She owns a coffee shop. She is married with 2 kids and has never smoked. What makes Terrence and Shania similar is that they both have been diagnosed with small cell lung cancer, and it was caught early. That's right. Small cell lung cancer can affect anyone. The good news is early lung cancer screenings can detect small cell lung cancer before it spreads, when the disease is most treatable. Join Stand Up to Cancer and Jazz Pharmaceuticals to raise awareness of small cell lung cancer and accelerate the pace of research. Ask your healthcare provider about screening options that might be right for you or a loved one. Visit standuptocancer.org/lung to learn more.
Happy kids heal faster. That's why Starlight Children's Foundation is dedicated to improving the mental well-being of sick kids, regardless of their illness or injury. When a child is hospitalized, the happiness of childhood feels out of reach. But that's where Starlight comes in. We provide entertainment through our gaming stations, comfort with our specially designed hospital gowns, play with our toy deliveries, and distraction through our virtual reality headsets. Starlight programs are what happiness is made of. The things that make being a kid special. The simple power of a smile. Delivered to over 800 hospitals across the country can make a lifetime of difference for sick kids. Learn more at starlight.org.
Welcome on back to On the Mark on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. Brought to you by Cunis Honda Hyundai, your number one Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. Check your calendars. If I'm right, it's the final Saturday of the year. And in car dealership world, that is, I mean, it's their Super Bowl. If you want to get into a new ride and you want to pay less than you would have paid at any other time this year, today's the day. 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. They got quotas to meet. They got end of the year sales going on, end of the month sales. Tell Jason Buxton and the crew over at Cunis Honda Hyundai, hey, Mark sent me. I'm here to save money. Let's get a deal done. Really quickly, today, 3 o'clock, number 6 Georgia, number 5 FSU at the Orange Bowl. Listen, FSU has a chance to prove that they got left out of the playoff. If FSU can blow out Georgia or beat Georgia in a really good game and play great football, well, then they'll have maybe earned a little bit of the right to say, hey, you left us out. Shame on you. We deserved a spot in. So that'll be an interesting watch. Shout out to Mizzou last night for beating Ohio State. Ohio State did not want to be in that game. They look so uninterested, but still a great win for Mizzou. And then, obviously, New Year's Day, 4 o'clock, Alabama versus Michigan, 1 versus 4. I think the winner of this game wins the national title. I really do. I think Michigan can handle Alabama's edge and pass rush because they have such an elite offensive line. Shout out to the kid from Crystal Lake, Trevor Keegan. So I'm going to take Michigan to win close. I think it's lower scoring. I think there's a couple big plays that define it. Blake Corum breaks a run late in the fourth quarter, something like that. I think Michigan wins 24-20 in a real bloody, bloodbath, physical, awesome football game. I'm rolling with Michigan. And the late game, Texas versus Washington. Listen, Washington has taken every punch everyone's thrown at them all year. They've been so underrated. Michael Penix Jr. has been great. But I'm a Longhorn at heart, baby. The eyes of Texas are upon you. Quinn Ewers and the Longhorns, they're going to beat Washington in an awesome game. High scoring, 35-33, maybe even overtime. I think it's going to maybe one of the great playoff games ever. Quinn Ewers and the Longhorns advance to the championship game. I'm calling Michigan versus Texas in the college football playoff. Final break, and then we'll wrap up the show next.
My whole identity had been wrapped up in being a soldier. To have that so violently ripped from me when I was wounded, I was lost for a very long time. When Wounded Warrior Project came into my life, being around the other warriors, people that had similar experiences that I did, it was a game changer for me. Having King join the group, that was the beginning of a really good friendship.
It's a good time.
I first heard about Wounded Warrior Project through CQ. And at first I was kind of like, I don't know if I qualify. But having been a part of it, it's kind of taught me that it's not just the wounds that you can see, but it's those that you can't.
When you do something like a peer support group with Wounded Warrior Project and come together from different walks of life, man, the growth is incredible. If not for Wounded Warrior Project, I really don't think that I'd be here today.
See how we help warriors combat stigma at woundedwarriorproject.org/combat stigma.
Giving your child their first phone is an important and often difficult decision. After all, it is a milestone in your child's development. The Phone Ready quiz from the American Academy of Pediatrics can help make this decision easier. Go to healthychildren.org/phone ready quiz to take a short questionnaire that'll help you decide if you and your child are ready, almost ready, or not yet ready for their first phone. Go to healthychildren.org/phone ready quiz today.
1070 KHMO.
Welcome on back to On the Mark, our News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app, brought to you by Cunis Honda Hyundai. The final day of the year, going to Cunis Honda Hyundai. Ask them about that lifetime powertrain warranty on new and used vehicles. Just tell them Mark sent you. I want to wrap up this show by quickly saying 12 years ago in the NBA, 10 years ago in the NBA, a decade ago, right? In the 13-14 NBA season, only one person averaged over 30 points a game. That was Kevin Durant. He averaged 32 a game. All right? Right now in the NBA, 5 dudes are averaging 30 or more. The scoring is insane in the NBA. Things to watch out for the NBA over the next couple of months, and we'll talk about it as we get more NBA focused here as the NFL season dwindles down. Can the scoring stay at this historic rate, or will teams actually lock up defense as the games get more meaningful down the stretch? Number 2, thing to look out for, can the Oklahoma City Thunder last, or is this just youth right now when the veterans are trying to conserve their bodies because Oklahoma City's balling out of their mind? And then finally, can the Suns and Kevin Durant figure this out? Because them hanging around 500 is not going to last for forever. Thank you so much for joining me. If you join me at any point in time during the 2023 year, thank you so much for following me on Twitter, on X, at Mark Hespin, on Instagram, at Mark Hespin. Follow the show On the Mark KHMO on Facebook. Thank you to everyone who tunes in on Facebook Live throughout the week on Saturday mornings. Thank you so much to Kunis Honda Hyundai for being an incredible sponsor. They've been with me for over 3 years now. They're with me going into 2024. Shout out to those guys. They're just the best in the business. Happy New Year. This is an incredible weekend of football. We have great Week 17 matchups, college football, big stuff on New Year's Day. Thank you so much. Follow me. We will see you for an exciting 2024 of On the Mark Saturday mornings here on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. Download the KHMO app. Get a phony ticket with you wherever you go. And I can't believe that 2023 has already come to a close. Exciting stuff ahead in 2024. And we'll see you next week on the Mark.